Hello, viewers from around the world, and welcome to this open house where we're here to talk about the international department programs exclusively. We're going to do a presentation on the programs that we offer in the international department. We're going to hear from professors who are part of who teach the curriculum, and we're going to have a visit of the school that we're going to have be moving to, as well as chat to former alumni who we're very proud to say are going to be joining us today for a little chat to discuss our program. So just a little reminder, we're following COVID protocols with the masks, but for the purposes of the presentation, we're going to take them off to deliver the presentation to you today. So we can talk to you in person, but the people around us are following the COVID protocols. I wanted to remind you to don't forget to ask your questions via the platforms, and we'll make sure that we get to the questions. I'd also like to present Bob Swain, writer, director, César Award winner, and the director of our international department for over 10 years now, coming, I think, probably
13 years.
13 years. Yeah. And it's a pleasure to have Bob here to be able to also present our programs and to fill you in on a little bit about what we offer to our students. The first thing that really we wanted to talk about is some of the, the kind of core values, like what do we stand for as a department and also as a school?
Well, I think that one of the most important things in film school, of course, is to state your goals. And what is the most important, and for me, the unique goal, is that our students find a job. That's what it's about. We know that it's a very attractive industry. Everybody wants to be in the entertainment business or the film business and so forth. And so a lot of schools sell dreams. I don't want to sell dreams. What we want to do at EICAR is to be very concrete and say at the end of our program, if you successfully complete our program, you'll find a job. We can't promise that. But we know from the past, and you'll talk to some of our alumni today, is that most of our students who have successfully completed the program have gone out and found work. Mm-hmm. And that's very, very important. And we do this, I think the quality of the program, what makes it unique is, of course, we have the core classes. We have the theoretical classes, the fundamentals of filmmaking, all the fundamentals. But we're very heavy on hands-on, on practical, because it's really filmmaking. What's unique about filmmaking is that it's a science and it's an art form. And it's one of the rare industries, if I can say that, where you have to be good in both those areas. So what we can give you, of course, are the fundamentals, the technique, and the program is designed to nourish the creative part because they go hand in hand, and that's what's very, very special about the program. So, and we do this by several ways. One is we have regular classes, lots of hands-on classes, and we have one-on-one tutoring, which is really important because you're going to be working with a professor. And I'll add that our professors are all working film professionals. There are no ex-students teaching in the international department of EICAR. They're all working film professionals who are out in the real world. They see the problems. They're on the cutting edge of technical evolution that's happening in our industry, and that is essential. So the fact is that we have the craft and the art. We've managed to create a program which deals with both these aspects, and that's very, very important. And the other thing I think is really important is not only do we have good equipment and all the things that a film school should have. To me, every film school should have certain things. Competent faculty, cutting edge equipment, but one thing that film schools don't have that's very unique is we have Paris. Paris is very special because it is the cultural center of world filmmaking. We have a special relationship with the French Cinémathèque, which is the first and foremost film museum and archives in the world. And all these things come together to give us a very coherent and proactive and very successful program. We have the results, and that's what's important.
One thing I've always thought was unique about the programs that we offer is that the sense that students are coming from all over from all over the world, and they have different perspectives, and they come to Paris. And Paris is such a natural harbor for artistic learning. There are museums, there are, you know, the culture of Paris always encourages learning. But I think what's so unique about our school is that it focuses on the craft, it focuses on what the skills that you absolutely need to know technically to get a job in the industry, but while having that inspiration, you know, at the same time. And I think that we're kind of at a unique crossroads to welcome people from all over the world, faculty and students, and that they come and they can have the exposure to Paris, they can understand the way that, you know, French films are financed, that they can understand the auteur theory, but they also get a they learn about three-act structure, they learn about international financing, so they get the best of both worlds, I think.
They have the, you know. Honestly, what's important is you come here, you have a general introduction. The first year, you have to take a class in all the fundamental disciplines. That's very, very important. Directing, production, cinematography, editing, screenwriting. And we'll talk to one of our screenwriting professors. We have 3 excellent screenwriting professors in our international department. All of them are working professional screenwriters, and we'll meet one later on today. And that's I think, John, that's very important. And the thing is that since I've been running the international department these past 13 years, I've had 102 different nationalities in our school. Yeah. And that is so rich because finding a job also is about networking. And when you look at the world map and you see that our students have come from the 4 corners of the globe, it's very impressive, and it's very nourishing, even for us professors. We love it because we're dealing with students from different walks of life, different creeds, religion, races. It's just, it's the world today. Mm-hmm. And the film industry, and my professors know this because they are working professionals. They know that the film industry is truly international today. You do a film, you know, you may be based in Kazakhstan, but you may be making a film in South Africa. That's how it works today. That's how it's financed, that's how it's worked. And this is the force of EICAR. And this is why we are one of the unique film schools in the world that offer that.
And I think we focus on, obviously, France. For instance, for our internships, we have an internship department where students can, once they know enough French, they can pursue an internship toward the latter years when their French is good enough and when they know what they want to study. So we link with the local industry, but our students are connected all over the world. And what we find is alumni are put together projects, as Bob's mentioning, the financing of films, the composition of teams, what you find from animation, where writers' teams are all over the world. This is becoming a network now that's very important in film to be able to have a global alumni network, which we have spent the last 13 years really fostering the strong alumni base. And that goes together with our philosophy of professionalism, of inspiring creativity. You know, there's plenty of room, I think, to make mistakes in our programs. Is that I think one reason you go to film school is to kind of have a laboratory in which you have a set curriculum, you have syllabuses that are published by professors, but you also have the sense that you can try out things, that you can work on different films in different positions, and you can try out something without too much fear of consequence, because we know in the industry, you know, a mistake is
get a second chance.
Fatal. No. So it's very important. Yeah.
This is a place where we can make mistakes because this is about learning, and we want you to know the rules, but that means that at one point, having mastered the rules, you can break the rules, you can experiment, you can go out and try things. Of course, the fundamentals are important. Before you break rules, you have to know what the rules are, right, John?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's very important that we give our students the proper equipment base. We keep up with the latest equipment to keep up to date with that. We invest over 200,000 euros a year in keeping our facilities up to par with the latest industry standards. Every student has access to cameras for their projects, for their exercises, and for their final projects. So We are obviously think it's important to invest in technology, but it's also the alumni, it's the people that are part of our organization and the teachers that I think make us you know, a step above in terms of what we can offer. I wanted to briefly talk about the admission process a little bit. We are going to get to very soon, in about 3 minutes, we're going to offer a tour of the new facility. We are moving next September. We're welcoming our new students into a new campus that's situated in the south of Paris. Right now we're in the north of Paris in a film facility that we've been in for the last 13 years. But we are going to be moving to Port-d'Ivry as of September, and to a whole building that is going to be devoted to for our classroom work, for our plateau work, our studio work, sound mixing, and student areas that's going to consist entirely a building for our needs. So we're going to be walking you through that in a second. There will also be access to student residences nearby that hopefully will make things a little easier for our students coming from all over the world to find housing. We have 2 new deals with StudApart and UFirst Campus that we can talk about. In terms of making people feel at home, giving people access, students access to the latest equipment and this hands-on philosophy, we are, you know, we're only going to expand that potential, I think. So we're coming up on, I think, maybe the chance to do a tour soon. I just wanted to cover one more thing. In terms of the programs, we're going to be talking about the individual programs in the international department after the tour, the Master of Fine Arts that we offer, Bachelor of Fine Arts, and one-year program that's intended as a kind of fundamentals learning year. But we also are offering 2 things that people should be aware of. This summer, we're going to be maintaining our summer workshops that are a chance for people to learn the fundamentals of filmmaking by doing a short themselves, and we've always offered this program during the summer. It's a good chance for young people to kind of figure out what they want to do, but it's intended, you know, as a workshop that is separate from our regular programs where there's an application process. As far as our regular programs, we can talk about the application process more in depth. But we are accepting those as of November, and we will continue our admissions until the end of June for this year. So you still have a large chunk of time to get those in. So maybe without further ado, I can prepare to take people through the new facility with Kareem, our virtual 3D tour guide here, and I'll maybe walk you through it. So we, if people are sort of tuned in here with the 3D model, hopefully we're dead. Okay, so on ground level, we're coming in to the entrance here. Hopefully you're seeing that on your images here. Oh, good. Okay. So when you enter, one of the first key things is going to be obviously the reception area, but the key thing on the ground floor is going to be a projection room. And this is obviously going to be a place that's outfitted with Dolby surround sound. It can be a place for students to screen their films. It's for large gatherings and guest lectures, as well as sort of outfitted with the latest 4K technology to broadcast your films and to have a central meeting place to broadcast the films. It's very important that also there's a lot of windows in this new facility, you know, kind of looking out onto Paris, and especially as you go up in the floors, you can see you'll start to see Paris on the view here. Now on the ground floor, that's the nature of 3D. We can sort of pass through walls and things. The ground floor here, we're going to have. Let me just go through the hallway here. So I believe this is a studio. So on the ground floor, we're going to have the space to be able to do studio work, lighting work. These are black box rooms that are designed for, you know, to get your lighting in there, to build small sets for work here. So this is for potentially for a cinematography class or something practical that you can do in these studios here. So we're going to have a number of these studios for our practical work. There's a green screen facility that's going to be good for composite and effects work. This will kind of add to the arsenal of things that we have to offer our students that are interested in basic effects work. We also have, you know, as you can see, we have a number of different plateaus or studios on this floor. Now we can go up. I believe we're heading up to the first floor. First floor, then I'll take you through and we go into the side entrance. So again, with the sort of nicely lit sort of lobby here, and then as we go into the facilities, well, we can, on the first floor primarily, I think you're going to find acting facilities, and you're going to find some more studios for practical lighting. Okay, now we have a natural studio for natural light. This is for lighting work when you want to incorporate, you know, the natural daylight. So it was important for us to build a studio that's slightly above ground to do natural lighting as well. You have some classroom space here and IT facilities. There is also going to be a place for our new programs, which include makeup, prosthetic makeup, and art direction effects studios to be able to work in those kind of areas that we're going to be incorporating into our Francophone section programs. There's more sort of lighting, natural lighting studios here. And here, some more space, I believe, for acting. So maybe we can go upstairs again. You can sort of see that you're starting to see Paris around here. I think normally students may not be able to take these staircases, but there'll be an interior staircase. But this is the magic of 3D. We can sort of walk through walls. So more, the third floor is going to be more sound facilities. So I believe these are mixing, you know, for live studio, mixing studios, for live music recording. You also on this floor have plenty of facilities to record Foley work and things like that for sound preparation. Again, these are sort of sound-based studios. So let's go above. Now we're heading up to the fourth floor. Fourth floor is going to be more classroom facilities. You know, you can see the more traditional classrooms for writing and directing or producing. We also have, you know, so there'll be office space on this floor too, but mainly a chance to offer classroom space, you know, for the writing classes that you need and the production here. So more typical kind of classroom space when we need it. So now we're up into the fifth floor. The fifth floor, we're going to have a student area. We're also going to have, you know, a little bit more classroom space and office space for the administration. But there will also be a student area at the end here. I believe we're coming up on a student area. So this is going to sort of serve as a canteen and as well as a student area for the students to congregate. In our new building, we think it's really important that people have areas to storyboard, to shot list, you know, to kind of congregate as students, to kind of give them their own spaces in order to meet and plan their productions. It's very important at our school that the students have a chance to gather as teams, as DPs, as editors to kind of talk about their work, because that's the nature of film is a team process where you need to discuss things. On the sixth floor, this is kind of the most James Bondy, I think. You have the view of the Paris, a 360 view. You also have a kind of zouk, I guess, area, they call it, for student congregations. You can do guest lectures here, I would imagine. And also on the ceiling, we're going to be able to project images and installations and things like that to kind of add to the ambiance at night. So it's kind of going to be a fun place, another fun place for the students to gather and prepare their work and to look out at Paris, which we have that 360 view being very close to the Porte de Paris, the view around the 360 view of Paris. I guess now we're heading into night. So there's I think that's the majority of the building there. Don't forget to keep your questions coming. I noticed that we're going to get to a few questions here. Let me answer them. I think, Kareem, that's great. Thank you very much. We have a nice nighttime view of the building.
Terrific.
Thank you. So to answer a few questions before we get to the next segment, Man, I need some glasses sometimes. I've been watching your work recently, and I'm interested in the section of filmmaking with an option of editing in the master's. Can we talk about international students and scholarships for the international students? Well, I think you can elucidate on the editing option, like what it entails to do a Master of Fine Arts with editing.
Well, basically, what we have a master's and bachelor's degree, a general degree in cinema. Okay, so that means that you have to have mastered the fundamentals, which I mentioned earlier: producing, writing, directing, editing.
There are 5
cinematography. Yep. Okay, no, because it's important. Because what I've learned as a professional, a film professional, is that knowledge in one area is absolutely important in the other areas. In other words, if you're an editor, you should know about directing, because that's really important. If you're a writer, you should know about editing because it's about structure. So all these things are kind of related. And what we do is that you come into the program, and on your second year, you tell us what would be your master. In other words, the specific area of interest. So if you're going to be an editor, then you would have specific courses dedicated to editing and workshops. So what we do, the school year is divided into kind of 3 terms. The first term, when you come into school, you have a lot of regular classes, okay? And in the regular classes, you have a lot of hands-on exercises. So if you're in editing class, you'll be editing and so forth, but they're pretty straightforward classrooms instruction, okay? The second term is dedicated to workshops, which is really interesting. When I began the program, I had 4 workshops. Now I have 44 different workshops. And the workshops are intense periods from 1 day to 1 week, sometimes 2 weeks, of well-known professionals who come from the outside and give you specific instruction on something. So if you're an editor, we'll bring an expert, a well-known editor in the industry who will come in and give you, there'll be a 1-week intensive workshop on a specific attitude, a specific problem or aspect of editing.
Right.
Okay? So that's kind of how it works. And then the third term, of course, is production. So what you do is you apply everything you've learned, the 2 preceding terms, is to go out and make a movie, work in a movie. So you will be the editor on a film, somebody else might be the cinematographer, and so forth, okay? So basically, it's not only editing courses, because that's important to understand. You can specialize in something. You can say my major is editing, or my major is directing, or screenwriting, whatever. But there are general courses that go along with it, hand in hand. And we find that that is extremely useful, because people who find jobs in this industry have a knowledge of the other jobs, yeah. Okay? So there's a very good program. I have several people that come in, for the workshops. In other words, we have Sean Cullen, who is our main editing teacher, who was one of the creators of Final Cut, was in the team that actually put together the program Final Cut. But we have, he's a regular editing teacher, but then I have 3 other editing teachers who come in and will have classes in all the main editing programs, okay? And there's aesthetics of editing, there's all aspects of editing, and then we'll get into some of the more specific programs that are related to.
And what I find about the option is it's good to have a host of different classes, because it informs the option that you choose, and you don't have to choose that option until the end. In fact, it's your final project. So if you choose to be an editing specialization or option, then that's your final project.
Yeah, that's really important, because here's what I discovered over the years, is is most kids that come to film school either want to be a director or an actor. I want to be an actor or a director, because they're the two most visible things. And what we try to do is expose our students to these other disciplines, you know, because there are a lot of great different jobs in the film business, you know. And we also have a very interesting program in production design, which is, you know, very, very important. And it's all interrelated. You have to understand that. So the first year, you do not state your major. It's only after the second year.
So we're going to get to the questions because the questions have been flowing in. I just wanted to respond to the last part of that question, which is in regards to scholarships. We do offer bursaries, but only starting in the second year of the degree programs. And that's because we want a chance to know how the students are doing. We assess, you know, their financial, they demonstrate their financial need, and they're the top of the class. We begin offering scholarships in second year. For first year in the BFA and the MFA, we don't offer bursaries ourselves, but you can always check out Campus France for more information if they might have a corresponding bursary for a country. For instance, Spain has offered a scholarship this year for Spanish graduates who want to attend EICAR or candidates. So I'm going to get to the questions. I just graduated community manager, Bac plus 4. Can I apply for a production audiovisuelle? So I think that's kind of more of a question for the Francophone department. I think that perhaps what we can do is we can get back to you, Mango Coco. We can get back to you for the answer to that question. I believe with a Bac plus 4, though, I believe you can, but I'm going to let Mary Celine and our team get back to you on that. I'm interested, Emma Onesti asks, I'm interested in the master's degree in cinematography. I also have a bachelor in arts and a master in film. I would like to apply for something almost 100% practical. Would it help me?
Well, we have a very, very good cinematography program for several reasons. One is that our cinematography teachers are working professionals, and in the past, it's not a guarantee, but in the past, a lot of them have hired our ex-students as assistants. It's been a real, very successful, and I'd say over half, maybe more, of our cinematography students have gone on to become cinematographers. We have a very impressive success with that program. Again, you still have to take certain classes in the fundamentals. But your second year, the emphasis will be on cinematography. But it's not, let me tell you, it's not 100% cinematography because we don't believe in that. As I said earlier, the goal is to find a job. And to find a job, you have to know all these other things. And everything evolves together. You can't separate things, you know. I mean, what I love about filmmaking, having been in this industry for many, many years, is it's one of the few industries where you get involved with a lot of different things, and that's what's exciting, is the complexity and the creativity of filmmaking. So yes, we have a very high-end cinematography program.
And it's practical.
Very practical, you know, and you'll have the latest equipment.
Yeah.
It's all state-of-the-art. Every year we change cameras. It's real simple.
Matteo Addis asks, I read that it is possible to transfer to the second year of the bachelor's after doing the one-year intensive course. Is that dependent on grades or the quality of your final project? Well, Matteo, you can, if you have a high school diploma and you did the one-year program with us, which is intended as a one-year program, and you pass all of the core classes in the 1 year, you can advance to the second year. But you have to be able to get the grades to pass the year. You can't fail the year as a 1 year. So yes, you can transfer into the second year if you successfully complete the 1 year program. All the core courses that would be available to the BFA 1, which is essentially what the 1 year kind of is in its structure and its composition. It's all of the core BFA 1 classes with a little bit of substitution, but essentially it is the fundamentals year. So yes. Suzanne Hano asks, hello, how long is the bachelor program? That's easy to answer. It's 3 years, 3-year bachelor program. And Suzanne also asks, thank you, the program is in English. Do the students have to speak French? Well, in the international programs, the curriculum is taught entirely in English. So the Bachelor of Fine Arts, Master of Fine Arts, and 1 year program in the international department programs, they're all English speaking. So you need to know enough English to be able to successfully write scripts and learn.
You have to speak English,
yeah,
absolutely. But what's important for us too is that we give you the opportunity to learn French. As a matter of fact, it's mandatory because you're going to be working in France and you'll find it enriches your cultural life. It opens a lot of doors. So English is the language of the classes and your teachers, but we have mandatory classes in French.
And Jadot, excuse me if I get them right, Jadot asks, it's in English, right? Is it a condition to have an English certification, or is it based on the interview? Yes, it's all in English in the international programs. And in order to apply, you need to be able to do an interview, a Skype interview, where someone from the admissions office interviews you in English and assesses your English. If you have a TOEFL score or an IEL test score, you can put that in your application, but it is not necessarily a deal breaker. But we do want to maintain in the interview that you are fluent in English and that you'll be able to follow your classes. Philane Jackson, this is great. Keep your questions coming because we have a few more minutes to address this. How much experience in film are you supposed to have when you apply for the bachelor's?
None. None. This is really important, even in the master's program. I mean, if you knew everything or something, why would you come to film school? The idea is we want you to come here, discover what filmmaking is about, and maybe decide what you want to do in film. Because what I said earlier, it's really important, is everybody has this kind of limited idea of what they want to do, okay? No, we really encourage people, particularly, you know, bachelor's and master's, because a lot of our master's students have a bachelor's in psychology, in art, whatever, but it just makes it that much more richer. So the answer is no. So you come, and that's why you're in school.
And across the board, I think that in the master's too, frequently students ask me in admissions, do I need to have a degree prior in practical filmmaking? And the answer there is no, it's not a deal breaker either. We have all kinds of different applicants with different backgrounds applying, and I think that's what makes the strength of the program. We have anthropology majors and sociology majors, and you know, they've maybe sometimes lawyers changing career paths. We have people in the master's program who have varied lives, and that's good for writing as long as you have a point of view and you are enthusiastic about saying something on film. We want to see your application, and we can see a point of view there beyond already having a craft. So it's sometimes we do have people that are working in the industry who want to maybe get into another part of the industry, but frequently you know, we have people from all different backgrounds. Finally, Spencer McAndrew, who was an alumni, he said hello to Bob. And,
hey, Spencer, how are you? Good to hear from you.
So we have some previous questions. We're going to get to the talking about the master's, bachelor's, and 1 year in more detail. But also people have asked, is there an age limit? And the answer to that is, for the master's, you know, obviously it's kind of in the neighborhood of people that have already gotten a degree. So they tend to be sort of 25, 26. They have done something in their lives, a previous degree, or have had a lot of life experience as well. As long as you can move equipment on the top end, on the mature end, I would say that what's important as a filmmaker is you're still able to carry things, you're still able to get out into the, you know, the thing. And on the bottom end, the minors, I would say you need your back. So you need your high school diploma, and usually that's in year 17 and you're turning 18. Sometimes people come here and they turn 18, but sometimes for the visas, you have to have a guardian in France. So if you're too young when you start EICAR and you're from another country, the visa service might ask you for a guardian just until you turn 18. So we don't have any restrictions. As long as you have your back or your high school, you can apply to the BFA in 1 year, and then with that master's, there's really no top limit other than being serious about film and physically, you know, capable. There's also a question in the past about well, the admission process we can sort of talk briefly about. It's very simple. In the international, you go onto the international page, you request an application, you click on Apply Now, and it's one of our admissions officers that gets in touch with you with a PDF application that you fill out. It's free to apply. You send all of your materials via email. It's a letter of motivation, letter of recommendation, transcript, and if possible, a portfolio sample, especially for the master's, it's mandatory. For the BFA in 1 year, it's optional. But I have to say, conducting Skype interviews, it's much more interesting to talk to a candidate that has something to show, some photos to talk about.
It's really important.
Or even a piece of writing. It doesn't have to be a film. No. It just has to show that you're interested in something, you have a point of view, and that you show it through your photo work or your writing work, that you have a story to tell.
I think that for me, over the years, the thing that I really took a hard look at was the motivation letter. I think it's really important. As said earlier, you come to film school because you don't know anything, probably, but you have a passion for film. And I think the motivation letter is one of the most important things that we look at.
We have 2 more questions, and then we can treat our individual programs. I'm an international student. I want to study bachelor from the 2nd year, but I don't have any credits in a filmmaking course, but I have 7 years experience. Does my experience move me into the 2nd year? Najib, unfortunately, people frequently ask this question. It's very hard for our degree awarding organization to award just for experience, because it's very point of view. It's very much based on your point of view. And even though sometimes people have some good experiences, ultimately for the credit to enter into the 2nd year of the bachelor, the degree awarding board needs a year in a similar practical film school to our own. So even though your experience is fantastic, we would insist on a year of film school credits to be able to pass into 2nd year directly. And then Matteo asked another question: how has the school adapted to COVID? Well, it's been obviously a challenge for film schools across the year. We're a very practical school. So what we've done in one measure is to keep, one thing that we benefit in the international department is we're very few. So we're 100 people in total. Our class sizes are 25 per class in the BFA and 15 per class in the master's. And then for the cinematography, we've been able, like for instance, things that we really need to host at the school, we've kept the numbers very small in terms of the people around the camera, respected the protocols, but wherever possible, we've offered the Zoom class option, the sort of virtual option, in classes where we could move it to online teaching. So in directing, writing, Elizabeth who's coming on, Elizabeth Schub, in a second, can talk about the challenges of teaching screenwriting. But in my opinion, screenwriting and directing, at least the theoretical part we can handle via Zoom. But we also have the practical that we've been able to maintain.
It's important too.
Yeah. What can you say about international working opportunities in France post-graduation? Do you think there's a lot of room for international professionals who wish to work in France? Asked Tom Quartz.
That's problematic, like anywhere in the world. We do have students who are part of the European Union. That's much easier. But those students outside the European Union, it is a problem. But we do have students who have managed. They've gone through, there's a process. And we have foreign students who are...
We're going to hear from them in a second.
And we're going to hear from them because you're actually going to meet 2 of them who are... One is from Venezuela, and the other is from Ukraine. Yeah. So stay tuned, and you can have it from the horse's mouth, as we say.
Suzanne asked quickly, do you have dorms for the students? Well, we don't have our own dorms, but we've just signed 2 deals in our new campus facility with both StudApart and UFirst Campus. UFirst Campus is going to be a residence about 2 minutes walk from the new facility. So there'll be the possibility of having lodging there, as well as with StudApart that is already, we've already signed a deal with, and we'll be having information for students who want to take advantage of those residences. So no, we don't have our own dorms, but we have some partnerships with some dorms very close by. Can you talk about EICAR affiliation to Indian colleges? So maybe we can talk about our Manipal
deal. We have a relationship with the Manipal University in India that we established 10 years ago, I think, 10, 13 years ago. And we have quite a few students from that part of the world. We have a relationship with schools in America. We have a relationship with UCLA Extension. It's important. It's important that there is communication between other schools and exchanges when it's possible. We have New York State University. We have an exchange program with them. So we're very proactive in that area.
And Noah Fekri asks, she's 17 years old. She wants to know if she can stay at accommodation alone or does she have to stay with a guardian. Really, we're into sort of visa territory there where, you know, as far as the school is concerned, you know, you have your choice of accommodation of how you want it. But the fact that you're a minor in Paris from another country, it might stipulate on your visa that you need to be close to your guard. I don't know. That would be a question for Campus France or the visa services. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think you know we've treated some of the main questions that have come in. I wanted to briefly talk. So, what would be the difference between, for instance, the one-year program and the Bachelor of Fine Arts program in terms of you know, what we offer? I can sort of go through the, you know, the basic goals of both of the programs.
Here's the difference. The difference basically, the one-year program is a little bit like a tasting menu in a restaurant. You want to come into a restaurant, you have a special taste, you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And a lot of people aren't sure that film is for them. So it's kind of a trial and error thing. I'm going to come to school and I'm going to take this and that. Hey, maybe I love film or maybe I don't love film. Maybe it's, you know, so it was designed to that. It's people in a gap year, for example. I personally recommend to our students, though, is to come into the bachelor's program because you have those credits. They're very similar. I think you have a little more latitude in the one-year program. But basically, we're dealing with fundamentals. Mm-hmm. So, you know, a directing class, whether it's in the one-year program or in the first-year bachelor's, is pretty much the same. And as a matter of fact, John, who teaches that class, can talk about that.
I have a composition of my class includes 1 year and BFA. And I think that obviously it takes time to do advanced work. So it takes time to know what you want to specialize in, and it takes time to kind of work up to the given camera equipment and things like that. And you can do that in a bachelor program. But in the 1 year, it's really designed to give you the fundamentals, to give you a good view of what's out there and what filmmaking is at its core. But then it's up to you whether you want to continue your studies or whether you have a good enough vantage point to sort of know what area you want to kind of jump into. But it is intended as a fundamentals program. The master's, however, is really for a more mature student. It's for a student that is really you know, has decided that filmmaking is really something they really want to pursue. And it's a little bit more accelerated, I would say, in terms of what you can cover. And also, we're very aware in the master's program that this is a candidate that's close, a little older in age and is closer to maybe the demands of the job market. And we want to make it as accessible in the classes as to how things work in the industry as possible. So in the master's, the aesthetic is, let's give you the information a little bit more accelerated, and let's take on board the fact that the mature students really are looking for maybe internships a little earlier and to approach the industry standards a bit earlier. So we're kind of at the point here now where we can talk a little bit about some of the previous questions that have come in. Remember, we are going to be welcoming former alumni at the end of our session here, and a teacher, Elizabeth Schob, who teaches screenwriting. Right. And she's going to be joining us. So if you have any questions reserved for a teacher in our faculty, a working screenwriter, you know, please save your questions for Elizabeth. And also, if you have questions for former alumni, things that you want to sort of hear from the horse's mouth, per se, know that you can ask those at the end of the session. So I have some more sort of general questions here. Also, what's your rate of acceptance? It's sort of a kind of admissions question. You know, obviously we get applications from all over the world. People are interested in our programs and the fact that, you know, we're located in Paris. So we have, I would say, for the 25 bachelor students, our rate is about 4 to 1. So we get about 4 applications for every one that is inscribed or matriculated into the program. For our master's students, we purposely keep it small, in small numbers, 15 students, and we also get about 4 to 1 for that now. So for every 1 matriculated, we have 4 that apply for it. again, what we're looking for is evidence that people are interested in filmmaking and self-motivated too. I think that's a real big factor in, sometimes people apply to schools in general, and while it's very interesting to see obviously proof of academic diligence, people have taken their schools seriously, what we also want to see a lot of times is proof of a little bit of independent thought and self-motivation. As a filmmaker, you have to be self-motivated. You have to generate your own projects. You have to be tireless in your own pursuit of finding work oftentimes and establishing connections.
Which is why the motivation letter is really key. Important. I can't stress that enough. It's hard for us because, we've had students in the past that have, grades, brilliant, top of the class, so forth, and they come to film school and it doesn't work out. And then we've had other students who academically were not great, they were okay in high school, for example, and they bloom here because they found something that, it's all about passion. Passion is a big, big part of what we do. And if you don't have the passion, forget it, honestly. Don't even apply. Hate to say that, but you need that. Yeah. It's a very, very exciting area of work and tough, and we want to prepare you for that. But you have to bring us the material. The material is you and your passion.
Yeah. I think that's a good juncture to be able to welcome in a minute Elizabeth to the studio and to talk with a teacher, a screenwriting instructor here in just a second. So we're going to bring on Elizabeth to talk with us.
Yes, yes.
So stay tuned for that. So, welcome Elizabeth Schoub. I hope I'm pronouncing the last Schoub. Sorry. Yeah. You're a screenwriting professor here at EICAR, and you've been here how many years?
I've been at EICAR for 10 years teaching screenwriting. Amazing. 10 years already. Time flies.
So as part of our philosophy that we mentioned in the beginning, it's really important to us to have our instructors with one foot in the industry, and I think in your case that's very much the case. I'd like to explore, first of all, perhaps you could give us a little bit of background about how you got into the film industry and a little bit about your teaching background. Kind of give us a...
Sure. I actually did my master's in film in New York and started to teach at film schools in New York shortly thereafter and realized that while I love working in the industry, what I also really love is teaching. And so it's something I'm constantly doing. I'm doing both, which sometimes is a little crazy because it's very busy. But I really feel it's essential as a film school professor to be able to give something of value to my students, which is real working knowledge, so that I can not only help them to channel their creativity and develop their creativity and point of view and their voice on the page, but actually real know-how of what it takes to work in the industry. And I think that's a real plus for our students, and not just me, but so many of the teachers here are also able to give students this real-world perspective. Real world, I don't really even use that term in class. I always say in working situations, because this is real, and this is all the real world. But I like to help them, encourage them to develop their voice on the page and also do it in accordance with working situations, because everyone wants to work in the industry.
And can you describe your approach, like in your syllabus? Is it sort of you're teaching screenwriting fundamentals, but you're also very focused on their work and giving feedback in a kind of, can you approach like your approach to teaching them screenwriting?
Sure. Well, I teach both first-year screenwriting to the bachelor's candidates and first years to the master's candidates. And what I love to do is start with a group of people who have no experience so that I can really give them the methodology and an approach to learning screenwriting that I feel is covers everything they really need to know in order to write their own work. They learn by doing, so it's a very hands-on class. Even for a writing class, they're constantly writing, but all the steps we follow are the steps that we would follow in working situations. And I think one of the real benefits is that they have access to me for tutoring. And so I spend a lot of time not only in class working with the students and writing, sometimes in class or giving feedback in class, but the students have access to me every week, and we meet regularly to talk about their work. And I think that one-on-one approach is really beneficial and really unique about our program. I know that I went to a prestigious master's program in New York, and I don't remember ever meeting with my professors one-on-one, and I think all our students can say that they really benefit from the time they spend with us.
And just out of curiosity, what would you say is the passion for screenwriting? I know within our students, a lot of students want to be writer-directors and see that. How many in your class would you say are, turn into screenwriters that really see it as a profession and want to do it apart from directing, maybe?
Well, it's funny. At first, at the beginning of the year, very few people raise their hand, like, who wants to be a screenwriter? I think maybe it's the nature of the program, it's international, and maybe English isn't people's first language, and they think, oh, this is going to be scary. This is going to be like English class. But then they realize that it's not, that storytelling is storytelling, no matter your language. And I think by the end of the process, a lot of people really do feel that they've connected with this and they love this and they're inspired to do it. So, yeah.
And how does the international flavor of the school influence the screenwriting, for instance?
Well,
the fact that we're an international school, what is unique about EICAR in your view?
Well, this is what I love. I love that so many people bring their cultures, their point of view, everything they know, their life's experience to the classroom, and people have so many different stories to tell and so many different ways of telling their stories. So we all learn the same methodology, but everyone has a different point of view and everyone has a different point of reference. And I think that's really one of the most beautiful things about teaching screenwriting in an international department with so many different perspectives. It's amazing.
What is the makeup of your fellow teachers, for instance? I know one of the things that we really insist on is that everybody's working in the industry, but for instance, yourself, you have a background in screenwriting. You've worked, I think, in screenwriting organizations, but as well as on productions and things. Can you detail a little bit about how it's important for our professors to know what they're teaching, the importance of the craft?
Well, I think especially in screenwriting, since I've been in film school, it's changed so much, and now there's a lot of emphasis on series, and I'm very active in a competitive series residence in Cannes that works in conjunction with Canal Plus and Vivendi. And so I do feel I can afford the students kind of an inside view on how series are developed, for example. And as someone who mentors and trains young screenwriters to develop series, I can also offer that to our students. And I think all of the different professional experiences that we all have as professors is something, it's an added benefit for the students, so that they're not just learning by the book. I don't have a textbook in my class. This is not a learning by the book program. This is a learning by doing, by experience, and by also tapping into the experience of other working professionals.
What do you think are the most important skills to import to the students, I guess, in screenwriting?
Well, I think it's passion. Mm-hmm. It's feeling really driven to want to tell something and believing that you have something to say, and then learning the techniques to say it. Mm-hmm. And being fearless, because a lot of people stop themselves and think, oh, it's so competitive, how am I going to do it? It's letting go of all of that, trying. Film school is a great place, as you and Bob mentioned before, where it's safe to try so many different things. Try to write in different genres, try to write in different styles, try many things. So I think that willingness to try is really, really important. And then discipline, because it's not all fun and games. It's actually a lot of work. I mean, I try to make things fun, especially for the people who are terrified of writing, but it's also a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And you have to organize your time and your work, so.
Perhaps while we're formulating the next question, if you have any questions for Elizabeth, don't hesitate to ask. We have some questions, but they're not pertaining to Elizabeth right now. Noah asked if the prosthetics and makeup teacher will join us today. Unfortunately, we don't have the prosthetics makeup. That's in the Francophone department, and it's a program that's being offered as of next year. So that's the answer to that. Bob, did you want to explore, as far as, I'm curious to know if there's any surprise stories during your time teaching. Was there a student that was initially reticent about writing and who kind of found their groove, so to speak, or?
This happens all the time, and what I have noticed, and I don't know if it's just me, but I noticed that a lot of the students who come in and say, I'm cinematography major, this is not going to be my favorite class, I can promise you that. It's always the camera people who find that they love writing. I don't know, it just happens time and time again.
You know? Screenwriting was never the most popular thing in film school, you know, and for a year, it was always a problem because we only had 1 or 2 people who wanted to be screenwriters. And I think that at EICAR, we have 3 working film professionals, screenwriters. And it's important because Elizabeth has the first-year students, I have somebody for the second-year students, somebody for the third year, and they're all working professionals. And they're very, very different. Because the rules in writing, it's like any creative thing, they're just the fundamentals, and then it's everything that the teacher does to draw out the talent in each person, and everybody's different. And the problem she confronts, because we talk a lot, she's one of my favorite teachers. So I think that it's interesting because it is so intimate, it is so special, and this is where the one-on-one is so useful because she can sit down with somebody, and then we have 2 other screenwriting teachers that have a different approach, different way, different personality, and at the end of 3 years or 2 years, I think there's a learning curve which is really, really interesting. But what I'm really happy about is because she has a lot of first-year students, and I think she is a real catalyst for motivating these kids, because since she's been here, I have more and more screenwriting majors than we've ever had before. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because it's the key to the film business, by the way. It's the fundamental, it's the bricks, the foundation, and and it's
definitely maybe the heart. It takes a lot of time to develop as a writer, right? You can learn technically the fundamentals, but it takes time to develop, so maybe that's why it's the hardest and people
I have
think
a
it's
relevant
scary.
question from Tom Quartz, who wants to ask Elizabeth, how hard would you say it is to find work in screenwriting in English in France?
Well, actually, Tom, I think that it's, you know, I don't know, given visa situations and work permission situations, but just as an English is my native language, and I'm a screenwriter, and I have a lot of work in France. There's a lot of work in France. There's a lot of production, both dramatic production and in animation as well. There's lots and lots of work here for English, good, qualified, native English speakers who are screenwriters here.
And particularly in animation, because France is one of the biggest animation producers in the world now. Major companies, and a lot of Franco-American companies are here. So, and you're working right now in animation, aren't you? Aren't you doing something?
Yes, I am. I'm working now in animation on a new series that will be coming out soon, a big mainstream animated series, and the production is here in Paris. There's a lot of very popular international shows are produced here.
Can you talk about the changes in, for instance, the changes in the industry toward series, toward streaming, toward episodic television, the idea of developing Bibles, for instance, for series. How has that changed in teaching screenwriting over the years?
Well, for me, it's changed in the sense that it's changed and it hasn't changed. On the one hand, screenwriting is screenwriting, and telling a story is telling a story, and understanding character, what motivates them, and how to construct a story remains the same on the one hand. That I think students have to learn the fundamentals of storytelling in terms of screenwriting, but I think it's really also important to include, and I do include at the end of my first year, a sort of look at, why a series and not a film, or vice versa, so that they understand the difference, because it is a different way of telling stories. It is a different way of building stories. And I think that film schools today need to prepare students to understand the difference. I know that there are a lot of people who want to break into series who don't really understand how to put it all together. So I think it's part of my job to demystify that for people a little bit.
And given that you've studied in America in a graduate program for film, and then you've had some experience teaching at EICAR in the international environment, what would you say is the sort of key difference of those experiences, like for students that are looking for an more international experience?
Well, I think that one of the nicest things about this program, in addition to the tutor, the opportunity to really have your teachers mentor you here, which is really special, is the community of students, is the way that people come from all over the world, and they realize that their greatest asset in a film program is each other, that there's the fundamentals and there's what you learn, but filmmaking is a team sport. And people come from all over the world and find each other in these unlikely little international communities working together, and it's really fantastic. It's so unique here.
I know Bob and I have mentioned over the years that we've had alumni working with each other on international productions. We've had people find crew members. We've even had some marriages, as part of the
right. And babies.
People finding people in other countries and things like that.
No, but it's funny because I was just speaking with the two former students who are going to join, and we were just saying how incredible it is they're still connected with their classmates, and how truly incredible it is. I was saying, if I needed to put together people in a production in, Kazakhstan, like I could do that with a few phone calls. I mean, we're all so connected to one another, and we span the globe, and most of the people do graduate and continue to work in the film industries in their own countries. So it's an incredible global network of filmmakers at the end.
Well, I think that it's probably a good juncture to maybe hear from those graduates. So we're going to take a little break, I think, and then we'll welcome Angelina and Carolina to our stage. So thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, I'd like to welcome our two students, Carolina from Venezuela, Angelina from Ukraine, and what program were you in? Tell us about your program.
I started the one-year filmmaking program, and then I stayed on the third year of bachelor program to finish, graduate.
Okay.
I studied the master's program, 2 years, major in directing.
Okay. And what are you doing now?
Now I'm working in the casting. I'm working in a big casting agency in Paris with a casting director who did an amazing feature films and series, and currently working on a big series for Netflix.
Okay, what's the name of the series?
Emily in Paris.
Emily in Paris. That's a fun series. And what are you doing, Carolina?
I'm writing for video games.
Okay, but before you had directed some films, you had...
Yeah. I'm currently now in the development of my feature film, and just signed with producers to do my 6th short film that I aim to shoot in Brittany, France.
Okay, so what did you find in your EICAR experience that is useful today, that you could take from your school experience into the real world?
Well, a lot of things, a lot of different things. First of all, I've been working a lot as a first assistant director, and that I totally and completely learned here. And then I am working on the shoots here in Paris, as well as production, because I learned it also completely at school, even if I had some knowledge before for some matters in directing, cinematography, but these things I only started to discover here. And yeah, so I can say this production side of movie making, of filmmaking, I completely studied here in EICAR.
Okay, Carolina?
To add to what Angelina just said, also the production period that we had here at school, which is basically like a hands-on period where you try different roles and positions in the filmmaking terrain field. I think that really was useful for me after school because, like, I learned what I was good at, what I wasn't good at. That made me also understand how my teammates work as well, learn about all the departments. In order to become a better filmmaker, you need to be able to understand as much as possible what everyone's is doing. And also, I think that it's important for you to work in the real world, to be a multitasker filmmaker. Like I learned to edit, I learned to produce, I learned to write, direct, learned a bit about production design. All of those things are important in order to survive and live in the film industry out there.
That's an excellent point. And I think that's one of the strengths of our program. And I said this earlier today, is the fact is that you know the fundamentals of several things. Doesn't mean you master those things, but you know enough. Because today, some of your first jobs, you're in casting, but you have an experience as a producer. Obviously, Angelina, that must have been useful to you. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yes, I totally agree, because if you work in a production, you should know every step of development of pre-production, production, and post-production. So you have to know everything about every position in the crew, about what everybody's doing, and then you should know about it, how to do it. You don't necessarily have to do it yourself, but you should be aware of that. And this is a perfect point, because, yeah, I only said I learned production because I used production, but using production, also you have to understand what people should do. And yeah, this is great in EICAR because we touch so many different subjects here.
And that first job, I mean, let's face it. I mean, when I was your age, I was a cinematography major, and then I became a director. But the fact is, cinematography gave me opened a lot of doors, because that was my first job. In those days, it was film, so I was a camera loader, and then I became a focus puller and so forth. So that means that I think the most important thing is to get your foot in the door, is get that first job, and that first job may be something that you weren't particularly interested in. That wasn't your goal, but it got you into a production company. And you've done a lot of different things, haven't you? We won't talk about all of them, but you have a very interesting background. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the various things you've done?
I mean,
not all things, but
not
some
all
things.
of the things I can say, but that's confidential. But I can say very loud and proud that I've worked from the corporate industry for EDF in the nuclear department. I was also I worked in production in the middle of the jungle and in the Amazon in a feature. I directed a documentary about Syrian refugees in Lebanon. I worked in the production department of Danone and supervising advertising worldwide. Yogurt.
Yogurt, well,
and
okay.
water.
Yogurt and water. Well,
all
that's
those
kind of
nice
healthy,
things to
very
hydrate.
healthy.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's good. I've also been able to open up a company with which I could also pursue different projects with other different types of clients, and at the same time, in parallel, making my films. So, yeah. And recently with the video games, which is great because today and tomorrow video games are getting bigger and bigger, and even more linked to cinema. I mean, you just have to watch Mandalorian and Disney Plus to understand that the new technologies, the new step in special effects is a link, it's really like teamwork between video game software and, last technology and camera and Ultra HD screens.
So what we're saying here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that your training here, your education here, has enabled you to have a certain choice, given you a lot of opportunities. Can you say that's different opportunities? Because you could have chosen to go into several different areas?
Well, it's completely, it depends on the student which path you can choose, but you have a lot of choice here. And also what I've seen here a lot is that students come here at the first year with the idea of directing or cinematography or writing or editing maybe, but then they discover something and they discover that they are more interested in that subject. And they go deeper in the different subject, and when they go out, when they graduate, they discovered production, like I did, for example. I never thought that I would be doing that because I was totally interested in directing, and yet I found that, and I was good at what I was doing, and it was interesting for me. So I think it's this is it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of something that we've tried to develop over the years, and we're very proud of that, is that we know that what people, when you talk about filmmaking, it's the director, or it's a movie star. I want to be a movie star, something like that. And as I said earlier today, is that we want to create the possibility for you to discover things, and discover maybe a talent you didn't know you had. Because all of a sudden, hey, I'm interested in this, and I have a talent for it, And I think that's absolutely essential. Okay. We have some questions here from Tom. Tom, I'm glad you're with us still. What gave you the confidence to believe you would succeed in this industry? Did it happen before EICAR? When you came to film school, did you think, yeah, I'm going to succeed? Or, who knows? Okay, give it a shot.
No way before EICAR. I mean, I just thought, okay, I think I kind of like film. I think I might be good at it. But after coming here and experimenting with different roles and getting to know better the métiers, I really felt like it was my thing, and I was actually just scared to get out there. And that's part of the drill. That's part of the thing,
Yeah, of course you're scared. Yeah, we're all
scared and excited,
yeah.
But both things.
Angelina.
Well, I still don't think I succeeded, so
well,
that's a constant doubt, and I think.
My friend, you have a job.
No, it's great, of course. No, I acknowledge all the things I achieved, but I still think the road is so long.
It's so long,
and we can do so many things, And it wasn't in EICAR where I discovered my passion for film, but here. I had this an amazing class of film history where I totally understood that is real. You know, when you feel you like something, but then you just know it, that it's true, it's real. And the road is long to success.
Well, I will say that the film history class is a very good class. I love to sit in our film history class even today, because it you know, it nourishes us. We see what people have done, and it helps us to understand what we can do next. So, okay, do we have, how did you figure out you wanted to work in film? What gave you was it here you discovered that was your calling, or did you, when you were a kid, you said, I want to be in film business, or what?
Everybody has a different story, and most likely different backgrounds. I don't know. My story is that I always knew that I liked art, so I painted and I wrote and I played music, still do. And I did an art history bachelor's before, and I had some film classes, and then I had workshops, and then I realized, well, film is actually a mix of all the arts, so I think this is ideal for me. I don't have to pick one. So that's how I realized. And when I tried it out, really, it was just, the more I did it, the more I liked it, and here I am.
Okay.
So.
It's pretty much the same. I love to paint, to sing, play musical instruments, and to write. And I always loved film, different films, any genre, well, a lot of different genres, not all of them. And I was acting a lot when I was a child, and then I was performing. I wanted to be a journalist and to be...
Oh, so many things there.
So
Great.
many things, but they're all connected. And then I found this one job that I thought it would be interesting to combine this everything. It would be director, which it is.
Yeah. Well, we have a question from Suzanne Anno. What was your experience in the school?
My experience in the school, well, I was lucky, first of all, to have had a great class, because I was lucky too that we all had this great chemistry, and we came from different nationalities, and so that really gave us like a very enriching experience, because not only we were learning about film, but we were learning about other cultures, and that was great. I mean, other than the production period and the classes and the overall learning, it was great to have found an ideal team. And yeah, we still talk today. It's important also that to find this network at school that you can, you know, lean on or, you know, count on in the future. So, yeah.
And you?
A different experience. I would say it was different because it was hard. It was fun. It was very, very different. And the great thing is to meet people from every corner of the world. And then my favorite experience was this particular production period where we get a chance to create many films and work in have different jobs on sets with different students who are making their shorts and try something. And we work for 3-4 months together, only making short films, and that was probably the greatest experience for me.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Really, it was nice seeing you guys. It's been a while now. We haven't seen each other. But I'm pleased to see that both of you are doing very well. And it's always a pleasure to see our ex-students and to stay in touch with you. And it's part of our networking. Let me say that in EICAR, we have the possibility to network because we have students all over the world in the 4 corners there. We have 102 different nationalities that came through our program. So those are 102 possibilities for work, maybe. We never know. Well, thank you for coming, and come back and visit us soon.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and à bientôt.